Welcome to Quest, Wilderness and More, where every trail tells a story and curiosity leads the way. From misty forests and elusive wildlife to vibrant cultures, soulful stays and winding roads, this space captures the wild, the wonder, and everything in between. So, whether you're here for conservation insights, sunrise treks, heartfelt reflections, or just a good cup of roadside tea, you are part of the quest. Let's wander soulfully and protect fiercely, not with fences, but with deep understanding, compassion, and care. Because to truly coexist, we must honor every trail we walk and do our bit to keep our planet clean, thriving, and alive.
A new day and a new adventure. The rainy night was that of a Saturday, the 18th of October 2025. Usually, we do not expect such heavy rainfall during this time of the year. But this year, the weather had been little crazy as the southwestern monsoon winds just kept coming and kept hitting the peninsula of our subcontinent. These weather conditions were a particular setback to the very intention we had at wherever we were headed. But with hopes of good luck and pleading mercy to nature, बोले तो literally एकदम इंद्रदेव के सामने हाथ जोड़ते हुए, we from Quest, Wilderness and More headed northwards of Bangalore. Pushpita, our son Ishan and myself Diganta, around 10:30 p.m. were on the satellite ring road headed towards doorstep. The downpour was heavy, but this newly built satellite ring road was pretty good as it allowed us to escape all of Bangalore city traffic and directly reach the Tumkur toll plaza via doorstep. We were headed northbound to a place that is synonymous to a paradise for bird watching. Yes, you could see it from the title of the video. We were headed to Dandeli. Usual major cities or towns on the NH47 just went past by as we drove steadily northbound. So all of Tumkur, the historical city of Sira, the windmills of Chitradurga, and even the temptation to stop over for Benedos at Davangiri, all even this temptation, all of it saw us pass by them, cruising across without stopping anywhere at all. Our first halt was a quick pit stop at Ranebenu. This place was called the 7 Crore Family Restaurant, seemed to be open all night, unlike most other places during this late night or super early morning hours, whatever you call it. It had fairly clean restrooms and the tea they served was decent enough. Halting for 10 to 15 minutes, we started our journey again, just a little more stretch on the fabulous NH47, and somewhere just before Haveri, the pleasure of the exceptional driving ended as we left the national highway and entered backcountry roads and state highways. On the NH, our Mahindra 3XO diesel was easily giving a mileage of 20 plus. We made a detailed video of our new vehicle earlier. If you haven't watched it, please do so. If you're interested in cars, the link is in the description. NH47, except for few patches where roadwork is going on, especially between Tumkur and Sira, was in fabulous condition as usual. But now, that we entered the state highways and the backcountry roads, the misery of potholes and in some cases no roads at all and so on started, and this slows you down significantly if you love your car. ऐसे ही फिर हिलते डुलते हम एंटर किए the jungles of Dandeli. So, to summarize the road conditions between Bangalore and Dandeli, पहले आपकी गाड़ी चलेगी एकदम मक्खन की तरह, फिर जैसे ही NH छोड़ा गाड़ी चलने लगेगी एक कॉकरोच की तरह. समझ गए ना आप? तो यूं कॉकरोच की तरह स्केटिंग करते हुए हम पहुंचे डांडेली, specifically the Dandeli timber depot, which is just outside the main city of Dandeli. We had pinned this location as we had decided to do a self-guided birding session before we checked into our accommodation, which was further around 20 kilometers away. The government timber depot of Dandeli was started by the Britishers. During those times, the forest was not as protected as today, and timber was sought after commercially, as we know it. During those times, trees were ruthlessly cut for luxury without having a better understanding of the importance of protecting the forest. Thankfully, in the present day, the forests are protected. Today, timber cultivation is done in subsistence, and most of the logs that you see here come from fallen or dead trees, which are brought here by the forest department. On certain days of the week, auctions are held to buy these prized logs. Alright, तो ये रही हिस्ट्री की बातें. अब करते हैं काम की बातें एक बर्ड वॉचर के नज़रिए से. There are lots and lots of fruiting trees here, especially figs. And you know what? This makes it a paradise for birds. Many species of birds come here in large numbers to forage for their food. The star attraction here are, however, the hornbills. There are 3 species of hornbills found here, in all of Dandeli. The Malabar grey hornbill, the Malabar pied hornbill, and the great Indian hornbill. The grey and the pied hornbills are pretty common, and I can say, you can definitely have a guaranteed sighting of them if you come to Dandeli. However, the great Indian hornbill is relatively very rare. We had been to this region more than 5 times, and only once we saw just a glimpse of the great Indian hornbill flying over the dense canopy. So, here at the timber depot, during this particular visit, we saw the Malabar pied hornbills in large numbers, and also there was few grey hornbills as well. We also saw some yellow-footed green pigeons, which were particularly beautiful as the morning sunlight seemed to complement their colors. After spending some quality time at the timber depot, we headed to where our accommodation was. We had heard about this place a lot from the circles of birders we follow on YouTube. It was a jungle lodges and resorts property called Old Magazine House. Trust me, guys, we did not regret at all that we chose to stay at Old Magazine House. The only regret being why we did not stay here longer. You will realize why we are saying this if you watch the rest of the video till the end. If you love birds, you will thoroughly enjoy the rest of the video and the visuals. Even if you don't love birds, it is possible you will start falling in love with them after seeing this. With that being said, we drove through misty, semi evergreen, dense forests of Dandeli and headed towards Ganeshguri. You see, for your information, Dandeli is not just a single place. Generally, in normal public transportation sense, Dandeli is the major town center of the region. But geographically, Dandeli is a region is a region, and the region consists of several small villages like Durgi, where we stayed last time, Kulgi, and this one is Ganeshguri. Okay, so these are little villages all across the Dandeli region. So the entire region is referred to as Dandeli. Old Magazine House is near Ganeshguri, which has a large water body called the Supa Reservoir, which is basically a dam on the Kali River. The entire area is protected under the hood of Kali Tiger Reserve and Dandeli Anshi National Park. Just before entering the resort, we briefly halted near the entry gate of the Supa Dam Reservoir as we spotted a familiar tree we had stopped by before during our earlier visits. There is a fig tree right at the entry of the super dam reservoir, and had stopped here on previous occasions to admire and photograph flocks and flocks of Malabar pied hornbills, along with some few yellow-footed green pigeons. However, on this occasion the tree did not start bearing fruits yet, and there were no hornbills. We parked our car nearby and walked towards the tree to take a closer look. What a pleasant surprise we had when we spotted flock of flame-throated bulbuls. They were all over the tree. Just look at them, how beautiful they are. The flame-throated bulbuls. We had seen them in Thatekad earlier as well. Further down the road, in some bushes, we saw some grey-hooded fulvettas and some puff-throated babblers. After a long night drive, we were tired now and decided to check into our accommodation. The entry lane to Old Magazine House is hardly 500 meters from the Supra Dab Reservoir Gate, and the trail is well designated. This stretch is an off road drive of around 1 kilometer. As we entered the resort, it didn't take much time for us to realize why this place was so special in the circle of bird watching enthusiasts. Bang in the middle of the jungle, no cellular network, surrounded by dense semi evergreen and moist deciduous trees, and under their warm canopy were laid few cottages and couple of two-storied buildings that house the guests and the hosts. There was ample space for parking. As they started the check in formalities, we were invited to their terrace where they serve food. But it was not for the food they summoned us, but because they could sense we were serious about bird watching, although we were amateur, we think, and there was something interesting there up there for us. We went and we immediately noticed there were several crimson backed sunbirds and few occasional ones were the commonly found purple rumped sunbirds. Why were they here in such large numbers? Obviously, for their love of nectar from these flowers, and I think bottle brush are flowering plants basically, and they were flowering during this time of the year. And for sunbirds, it is a food fest. In the surrounding canopy, we could see the flame throated bulbuls again. We also saw some golden fronted leaf birds. Heard so many bird calls, but alas, could not see all. Some of the calls we heard during these morning hours, but could not see, were Malabar trogons and the white rump shama. We later actually saw them, so please stay tuned and बने रहिए वीडियो अंत तक देखिए आपको पता चलेगा हमने बाद में इनको देखा. Oh God, we suddenly realized we were surrounded by all kinds of birds, so much that we had to quickly make decisions which ones to prioritize to photograph. We soon heard a familiar call, and as we followed the sound, the familiar one sat right in front on the trunk of a tree, moving vertically up sometimes and sometimes vertically down while pecking on the bark. Yes, it was the flameback, and it was right there. Actually, this terrace restaurant was not the major highlight of Old Magazine House. The bird hide below, just adjacent to this building, was the main highlight, and it was yet to become active. Meanwhile, we checked into our room. We had booked a cottage which was an independent structure from other buildings. I guess there are two such cottages. We parked our car right in front of our cottage. Let us give you a quick room tour.
The room is pretty big. We had a double bed and a single bed. We actually connected the single bed with the double bed. We don't have ceiling fans over here, but they have provided a stand fan. They have given two single sofas. This is the balcony with two chairs and a table. We have parked our car there. Um, yeah, we have electric kettle, some tea bag, sugar. Let's see the washroom. The washroom is decent enough. They have provided all the basic toiletries. Hand wash. We also have geyser, some towels. Yeah, everything was working fine. Pretty decent room.
After a sumptuous breakfast, we decided to spend some time within the campus of the property. The diversity of bird life could be felt all around through chirping, calls, and other direct sightings. Apart from birds, there was this occasional sighting of Malabar giant squirrel, and also often we could see some grey langurs high up in the canopy foraging for something or the other. Although the entire place felt like a paradise for us, deep in the jungle teeming with bird life and other wildlife, however, when it comes to the performing stage where the main performances of elegance by our feathery friends would occur, it was undoubtedly the bird hide. Many birds were seen, and here are some of the visuals for you to enjoy. There were few moments that deserves a special mention among the events that unfolded in and around the Hyde. The showstopper during the pre-noon hours were a flame-throated bulbul and a yellow-brown bulbul taking a plunge in turns at the Hyde. Both are species of bulbuls, but they are endemic to Western Ghats only and not as commonly seen as the bulbuls you know, the red-vented and the red-whiskered. The sunlight shining on the area complemented their bright colorations and elegance. There were also some Indian white-eye in the vicinity, often sharing the space with the bulbul. They are extremely fast-moving birds and are rarely seen sitting at one place at a time. We had been hearing calls of the white-rumped shama nearby to the height since the morning hours, but did not have a direct sighting until just before the lunch. Around 1 p.m., it emerged and gave us a glimpse as as it sat nearby on a branch of a tree. Some of us were impatient as after such a long journey we wanted to have lunch and get some rest. But the beauty of this bird demanded our attention and Pushpita preferred patience over rest, unlike the impatient me who was hungry and thought the bird would never show up openly in the height. Pushpita was right though, and our patience paid as the white-rumped shama came down right at the height to take a plunge. After the Shama Showstopper, we had our lunch and we went back to our room to get some rest. Around 3 p.m., we visited the hide again, but this time the weather was not at all that favorable as it got cloudy. During these hours, the most eventful thing that happened was when we started hearing calls of the Malabar Trogan. Pushpita was the first person to spot the brightly colored male high up in the branch. Minutes later, I spotted the female, which was not as strikingly colored as the male. We had encountered Malabar Trogan before as well during our visit to Thatekad in Kerala. That particular sighting was better in terms of photographing opportunity as they were sat nearer as compared to this time when they were sat higher up. They would change their sitting positions frequently, and whenever the male wherever the male went, the female followed, and down below at the forest floor we could we would follow as well, adjusting and improvising with our cameras and tripods. Malabar trogon is an endemic bird. It's endemic to Western Ghats and also Sri Lanka. The photography continued as they moved from branch to branch until some racket tailed drongos showed up and chased the beautiful trogons away to deeper parts of the forest beyond our reach. The greater racket-tailed drongos are themselves very beautiful birds with an illustrious long tail and a spiky distinct feather cap on their forehead. They are known to mimic calls of other birds. Also, we did notice they were particularly irritated by the presence of certain other birds. Now they chase the trogons away, as I told you, and in the morning we saw them chasing leaf birds away. It seems they do not tolerate competition that shares similar feeding habits as them. In the past, we have observed similar competitive behavior between the red whiskered bulbuls and the coppersmith barbets, and noticed how dramatic their competition can be. But those are stories of more urban settings and not of a forest paradise like where we are now. Soon evening approached, and we hardly could realize that how time could fly so quickly by just observing birds. The evening also made us realize that Dandeli is so much more than just day shift birds. As dusk came in, we heard familiar call of the oriental scoop owl. Listen carefully to this repetitive, evenly spaced, sparse notes. We also heard the call of bubuk. While taking a walk across the campus, we also noticed porcupine quills on the trail. Did you know porcupines are basically rodents? Like the same family as rats and mice and squirrels. And they are primarily nocturnal. Did you know porcupines love to eat the antlers of deer? Basically the fallen antlers of deer that are shaded after their mating season. You see, forest is so much, much, much more intriguing than just getting satisfied by a big cat sighting. Oh, I was thinking of big cats, and we just heard some distinct alarm calls of a somber deer nearby, not very far from us. While in this part of Dandeli, there are presumably no tigers, but there are regular leopard movements here. As the sambar deer calls continued from the nearby branch, we heard the fanatic alarm calls of languid monkeys. Definitely, there was a leopard around, and as it was getting dark, we abandoned the plan of further strolling around in the campus as the possibility of a standoff with a lurking leopard and a family with a 10-year-old kid could get tricky. Off we went back to our rooms hurriedly. The rest of the evening was uneventful except for this. We noticed these burrows during daylight and had reminded ourselves to flash some light on them while we were returning from dinner. Look at what we found. Absolutely huge and hairy, and to some maybe scary too, tarantula spiders, right? This is a tarantula spider. Specifically, this one is a subspecies known as the carvar large burrowing spider. Fascinating, isn't it? Do you know the importance of spiders in our ecosystem? If you do, please share your thoughts in the comments. We would love to hear, and maybe in future make an informative video on spiders. In the campus, we also saw this giant wood spider. The night saw heavy downpour and activation of blood-sucking leeches. We did not get one that night yet, but the next day we did get some. Next day, early morning, a naturalist took us for a nature walk. The naturalist was very knowledgeable and had incredible knowledge of the local flora and fauna. He took our group through the same trail from where we entered the old magazine house, and then walking by the main road, we reached the familiar entry gate of the Supa Dam Reservoir. We realized going with a guide was so much fruitful as he was able to take us to spots where we had some incredible sightings. Look at what we found during this nature trail. After return from nature walk, we had breakfast and continued to spend time in the property itself. There were usual bird sightings, but the most eventful thing that happened were some alarm calls of the Malabar giant squirrel, as there was some eagle, probably a changeable hawk eagle, something like that, flew from over the canopy nearby. The rest of the second day wasn't such great at the bird height as rain started again, which significantly ruined the chances of sightings. Leeches lashed onto our foot at multiple places on multiple occasions while walking around the campus and also during the nature walk earlier the day. Leech do not bother us as we are pretty used to them, but for those of you who haven't encountered them before, it is possible you could get freaked out. This is a common thing if you are in the jungle, especially the jungles that are moist, deciduous, or evergreen rainforests, and especially during the wet season. The next morning saw us wake up early in the morning at 5 a.m. to calls of the bubuk, the brown bubuk. The plan was to check out early, but before leaving Dandeli, we wanted to visit the government timber depot again, but this time with the same naturalist who took us for a nature walk the previous day. We were so glad that we decided to do this with a trained naturalist who knew the area so well. You see, there is so much difference when you visit a jungle not known to you, trying to spot animals and birds unguided at random places. We strongly recommend hiring a guide as that person would know the spots where sighting chances are maximum. The same spot we had visited 2 days back, and now with a guide, now I mean, the two instances were remarkably different from each other. Look at what all we found, not just limited to hornbills. Yes, hornbills, though, remain the star of the show here at Timber Depot. But anyway, there were others too. So enjoy these visuals of what all we found here at the Timber Depot. Though we do regret that rain did diminish the chances of sightings during this trip, but even after this setback, we did thoroughly enjoy seeing all that we could find. And, anyways, the world is not coming to an end or something. Hence, we will keep visiting Dandeli again and again and again, and maybe much more than again and again, just like we do Bandipur, Nagarhole, and Wayanad. I mean, why not make the most of places that are at a driving distance from where we live? I am sure nature enthusiasts like us who live in Delhi must be visiting Bharatpur, Jim Corbett, and Ranthambore more frequently, right? Like as I said, we'll keep trying to make the most of places near us just because it is convenient, while we will also keep seeking places far off once in a while as time and holidays permit.
From the flutter of the Indian yellow tit to the mellow gaze of the yellow-footed green pigeon and the unmistakable flight of the Malabar-pied hornbill, Dandeli gifted us a symphony of wings and whispers. But it was the brown bubuk, the elusive guardian of the timber depot, that truly stole the spotlight. A silent stare, a moment suspended, a memory etched. If this journey stirred your wild heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Quest Wilderness and More, where every encounter is a story waiting to be told. Wishing you a happy Halloween filled with mystery, moonlight, and just a hint of owl-eyed wonder. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.